Hey, Jeff here. Time for another contest entry. So Pete over at Pete's CD Vinyl World hit 200 subscribers, and so he's having a little contest. So yeah, he's got 10 questions, and we're going to answer those and get going from there. Number 1, a band or artist that most people like, but that you do not like. Now, I'm trying to stick, of course, in some kind of a genre close to what my styles that I like are. So I would have to say, I am not a fan of Nirvana. I know they're huge. I did not like the grunge scene. I do like some of the bands. I like some of the Pearl Jam. I really like Creed, Soundgarden, but I just don't like Nirvana. I just never really got into them. Doubt I would ever buy any of their records or CDs. So I know that may get some hate, but it's just they're one of the bands that I just didn't like from day one, and still haven't. Obviously I know the songs, and I've been forced to play one or two in a band here or there, but for the most part, they don't do anything for me. All right, number 2, a band or artist that people might be surprised that I like. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, I have shown all of these bands, of course, so people may already know some of the bands that they're like, wow, for somebody who listens to a lot of hard rock and metal, it's weird that he listens to blah, blah, blah. So obviously I could go with something, simple like the Cartridge Family. Yes, I'm a big Cartridge Family fan. Have all their records and CDs, and reissued the CDs came out in the 2000s, and I bought them all up. And I've mentioned them before as being one of those oddball bands. So I wanted to go a little different, and I thought, I bought this not too long ago too, but no doubt they're a more modern band. Pop, ska, dance, definitely outside of my normal realm. Back in the day, I had all kinds of CDs and singles with additional songs, and I collected a lot of stuff by them. I am still liking them. I still listen to them frequently, and I did pick up this on vinyl not too long ago, and look forward to getting some other stuff. So this type of music I don't have a lot of, but this is one of the bands that I have really enjoyed. Number 3, a live album that should have been doubled. I'm going to go with this one, Sammy Hagar, All Night Long. I love this earlier time frame. This is Sammy Hagar before heavy metal and Three Lock Box and all of those albums that really, when he switched over to like Geffen music and stuff and became popular on the airwaves. This is the famous stuff, and I love this era, and I love the songs. And this has only got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 songs. Now maybe that's all he played in concert. I don't know. I've seen some concert videos from back in the day, and I'm pretty sure that this is probably not the whole concert. But anyway, love this album, love this era of Sammy Hagar, and do wish that there would have been a double live album from this time frame. Number 4, a band or artist that should have been bigger. A band that had some success, but I felt, that I feel should be bigger. I'm going to go with Riot. Riot are still around. They still put out quality music. But back in the 70s, I really liked the 70s and early 80s time frame. Now, there was, in these early 70s, they had Guy Speranza on vocals, and those first few albums had him, and I really loved that era. It's just good, solid, hard rock. But then he quit the band, and they brought in Rhett Forrester for a few albums, and this was a time frame where I think I've really kind of discovered them. And this album I fell in love with. I really like Rhett Forrester. I followed him onto other projects. Everything he did, I tried to get my hands on. Both of these guys, have passed, but these albums in the 80s and 70s are still just up there. I listen to them frequently. They're just not super huge. I think they really could have been, should have been much bigger. Number 5, a band or artist that were huge, but have kind of been forgotten about. Now, there's obviously a lot of bands like that. Again, there's some artists that you just never hear mentioned anymore. And they have, in their heyday, they were really big, but you never really nobody talks about them anymore. They're just like totally gone by the wayside. Of course, I'm not talking about the Beatles. I'm going with like Billy Squier. You still hear his hits on the radio to this day. Just his hits. And really then only 2 or 3. But he had a lot of great music in the early 80s that were put out, and he was really popular at the time on the radio at the time. He has put out albums since. In the 90s he put 1 or 2 here. He occasionally would pop up and do something. Where is he at now? I haven't followed him, or where he's, hadn't heard him pop up recently. But I realized once I started buying the stuff, because you can get the stuff on vinyl fairly cheap, so when I started rebuying vinyl and I started picking up his stuff and listening to it again, I'm thinking, wow, there was so many great songs that you still don't hear on the radio, but so many great songs that we enjoyed back in the day. It's just sad that he hasn't got much recognition these days. Number 6, show a live concert. Videotape, VHS, Blu-ray, DVD, or whatever. I have a ton of them. I think all of them are great. I started scanning through them, and I thought, this is one that's going to be totally off the wall. Hey, we didn't know Jeff liked that kind of stuff. Maybe this would answer both questions. But I pulled out Unwigged and Unplugged live concert DVD. Now, do you know who this is? We got Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. Now, they all have all kinds of, connections. We know Michael McKean, he's a actor who's been on everything. He's just everywhere you look, he's there. We know Christopher Guest, he's written, directed tons of movies. He's the Six Finger Man and Princess Bride. He's been in a lot of movies. He's done a lot of producing and stuff behind the scenes. And then Harry Shearer had done a lot of voices on like The Simpsons, and he's done some, solo music too. But collectively, for those in the know, these three guys are the three guys that did the Spinal Tap. They are the Spinal Tap band. They also, on A Mighty Wind, they've done a lot of movies together with musical things. A Mighty Wind, which is all about folk type music. And there's just, First and Show about dog shows. And these guys have popped up and done all kinds of movies together and different styles of music together. And they're funny, witty. I just love almost everything they do. And so this concert is the three of them, three aging guys. They did they did some tours, and they go around playing songs from all of those movies and albums and stuff that they've done, and talking in between. So it's a great CD of all kinds of music, acoustic versions of Spinal Tap. It's just great. So this is really, this stood out as, this is a great concert. You need to check these guys out if you haven't. Number 7, an album with the guitar on the cover. Now, there's a ton of options there, but I wanted to go with something a little different. That's not just a typical guy playing a guitar or typical guitar. These guys have like 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 albums in my collection that have guitars on the cover. And that's Petra. Look at that. We got a guitar boat, and it's shooting a torpedo. And we've got a guitar spaceship. More power to you. You can see that's got all the frets and everything there. We've got Not of This World, and there's another guitar spaceship. Captured in Time and Space. It's a live album. Got guitar spaceships. They were all about the spaceships, I guess. And then we got Back to the Street, and it's kind of like a invisible. It's Wonder Woman's invisible guitar playing. There you go. Yes, so they had a lot of symbolism, guitar stuff on their cover, so there you go. Number 8, an overrated album. Now, this may get me in some trouble, but I don't have this album. I'm mentioning an album that just recently came out. I've seen videos, I've seen reviews, I've seen comments, I've seen pictures on Instagram of people buying different versions. Oh, I've got this color, I've got that color. And all this hype about this new album, that to the point where I'm like, I have to check this out. I have been a fan of this guy's music for decades, but I can't say I'm a huge fan of everything. And so maybe this is not so far out of the realm of what he usually does to where it's that odd. To me, it sounds nothing like anything I've ever heard him do. I could be totally in the wrong, but in my opinion, everybody's talking about it, everybody's ranting and raving about it, and I just don't get it. I listen to it and I'm like, this doesn't sound anything. I'm talking about McCartney 3. I'm a big Beatles fan. Not huge, but I'm a big, fairly big Beatles fan. And I loved some of his solo stuff in the early days, the stuff with the Wings, the hit songs. And I listened to this new album. I don't have a lot of the stuff he's put out in the past 20, 30 years. Haven't really listened to a lot of that. So I go and I listen to this, and I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't hear anything in these songs that sounds anything like anything I've ever heard him do. And again, I might be wrong. All I know is at this point, I consider it to be somewhat overrated, only because I heard so many people talk about it and hype about it that when I listen to it, I'm like, I don't get it. So I'm not a big fan as far as that goes, so I might be totally wrong. I just didn't hear anything that made me want to run out and, have a copy of that. So I could be wrong. Anyway, enough with that. Number 9, your favorite bootleg, CD, cassette, or whatever. Now, I at first was thinking, I don't really have a lot of bootlegs. Now, to me, a bootleg could be considered something like a bootleg live album or something like that, or where they've taken demo tapes and putting them on vinyl. And there's a lot of things I'd like to have. But then I got thinking, well, I did recently, a couple months ago, buy some unofficial releases. So I guess those are bootlegs because they're not official. And so I went with that. But then I'll have two I'm going to show here. So one of the ones I got was Kiss Sonic Boom. It's just one of those albums that's impossible to find for a decent price anymore because it was such a limited vinyl reissue. The unofficial releases, I was kind of saying they're not really bootlegs because bootlegs to me are like music that wasn't on vinyl that somebody put on vinyl. But it is an unofficial release, so it is a bootleg. So, and this is just one of the ones I thought it sounded great. All the ones I got sounded great. They did a great job at it. It looks and sounds great, so I really love this. But along the same lines, thinking back to when I was buying CDs and stuff, bootlegs, and I was looking through and I thought I really like this. This is the Farewell Tour package from Kiss. This is back in 2000 when they were supposedly going away, and there were some, I guess you could call them bootleggers online that were selling these things, and this is one of the best ones I've got because what it is it's the Wicked Lester, which is, the pre-Kiss stuff with Paul and Gene. It's the demos, but it's like, the whole album, and then some raw mixes, and then some remastered different mixes with different singers, Gene singing instead of Paul. But then it also has the Lost Kiss Alive 2 album. Now, it's an Eddie Kramer mixed, and it's got different songs, and I tried to look up the history behind this, but it was enough to make me buy it. It was a different show. I think it was even the album before they actually did the, a live 2, so it would have been a different tour, different songs, and it was mixed and supposedly ready to go as a live album for a live 2, and then something happened. It got lost or messed up. Something happened, and it never got released. And then, the next year and the next tour, they did a live 2. So the thing is, now I have another bootleg of Wicked Lester, but the thing about this one, and it's got pretty nice sleeves and pictures and all that, looks pretty decent, but it is just a CDR. You can see it's getting blurry there. Whereas this, they've actually pressed them to silver CDs, so it's got actual printing right on the thing, and so I like that it's somewhat got some money behind it, somewhat officially done. And they had these individually released, and then at some point during the farewell, they put them together in the 2 sets, so you could get 2 of the best sellers in one. So great stuff. Now, there is, I understand, that just came out this year, a Wicked Lester on vinyl that somebody released on vinyl. I would like to track that down. You can't get it on Discogs because I don't think they allow you to sell that. And I can't find it on eBay. So it supposedly just came out this year, though. So I'd like to get the Wicked Lester sessions on vinyl. And then number 10, an album that you were surprised doesn't sound great. Now, I've seen different people discuss this, and they're like, this pressing doesn't sound great, or this remastered edition doesn't sound great, or, a reissue. I wasn't sure. I didn't have anything like that I really wanted to go with, but I wanted to go with this one and to tell a little story of it. This is the reissue of Metallica's And Justice for All. Now, in the day when this came out, I remember going to the record store and hearing them play it overhead and thinking to myself, this sounds like crap. It just didn't sound good. The drums sounded like they were totally isolated and mixed way over here in a different place. They didn't sound like they belonged in the music, and they didn't sound good. The drum sound didn't sound good. And then the guitars were compressed, and it just sounded too separated and empty and had space. Now, I love every song on this album. I love this album. You get used to that sound. Okay, it is what it is. You like the album. Now, they go back and they reissue it and they remaster it. Now, the other thing that people know about this album is there's no bass on this album. The bass has been Jason's bass has been totally turned out. I've heard mixes of this where somebody had went back and turned the bass pieces up. Sounds great. You would think, and I think a lot of people would think, when this was reissued, and remastered a couple years ago, that they would fix that. Let's go in and fix it and put the bass guitar in it, and let's put it out the way it should have been done. But no, they didn't do that. So the album sounds like the original. It sounds great. It's remastered. It sounds really good, but it's still got that separation sound. The drums sound, they sound kind of flat. The snare drum is just, there's no oomph to it. It just sound, the bass, everything just doesn't sound right. I don't know if it's triggered or what, but it just doesn't sound great. So I was surprised that this album wasn't fixed and put out the proper way. So I'm going with that one. And that's it. 10 questions. Congratulations, Pete, for hitting 200. If you haven't checked out Pete, go do it. Go check him out. He's got a lot of good stuff. Let's get his subscriber count up even further. He's at like 225 now. So check out Pete. I'll have the link below in the description so you can see the original video and go check his channel out if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you later. Rock on.